Hi everyone! Welcome to Hot Minute Module, Teaching Irregular Words. My name is Mara Shin-Smith, Senior Program Specialist from the Reading Language Arts Unit at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. Thanks for stopping by for a few minutes to watch this module. Why do some of our students learn to read and write words much easier and faster than others? My objective for this module is to share a strategy to teach irregularly spelled high-frequency words using evidence-based strategies, which will be helpful for all students. So I'm going to start off by defining irregular words. Irregular words are words that have a letter or letters that don't make their typical or dependable sounds. Irregular words are sometimes called red words, tricky words, heart words, memory words, or rule breakers. For this presentation, I will not be calling these words sight words, which might imply that words are simply memorized as a whole word or by sight, as opposed to making connections to some of the dependable sounds within the word. This is a no-shame zone. I always want to make this crystal clear. As educators, we are lifelong learners. As we learn new research or a better practice, we make adjustments to best meet the ever-changing needs and situations of our students. I used to tell my students that sight words were words that could not be sounded out. I would teach them to look at the letters. We would recite the spelling of the word over and over. When my students would start to sound out a sight word, I would tell them to stop because that wasn't how they were going to learn it. I was teaching my students to look at the whole word, basically to memorize it. Recently, I've learned that memorizing words is not the way the brain stores and learns these words. Students have to actually make the connections between the individual sounds within the words and the visual representation, or letters, that these sounds make. When our brains match the letter or letter combinations to certain sounds, this is called orthographic mapping. Dr. David Kilpatrick is a college professor of psychology and school psychologist from upstate New York. He offers this definition of orthographic mapping. Orthographic mapping is a process that readers use to store written words for instant and effortless retrieval. It is the means by which readers turn unfamiliar written words into familiar and instantly recognizable ones. When we are asking students to memorize words, we are actually inhibiting the orthographic mapping process. We need to have students sound out words, even if the words are not spelled phonetically. Here's a breakdown on teaching irregular words. For this example, I will be using the word said. So the first thing you are going to do is verbally introduce the new word. Be sure to really stress the sounds that make up the word. I would say something like this. Today we are going to learn a word that we see and say all the time. That word is said. Let's think about how many sounds we hear in the word said. Okay, everyone, repeat after me. Said. Now let's break that word apart. I hear s, d. You can hold up 3 fingers to visually show the 3 sounds. Then you can draw 3 lines on a whiteboard while saying each sound for each line drawn. Now up to this point, you still have not shown the word card for said. Next, you will fill in each sound line with a corresponding letter or letters. I would say, so we know that said has 3 sounds in it. Let's take a look at the 3 sound lines and fill in each line with the letter or letters that make that sound. The first sound is S, and the letter S makes that sound. Let me write that in. The next sound is and the letters AI make that sound. And the last sound is D, and it is written with the letter D. Now let's take a look at the spelling of the word. I know that some letters make the sounds they're supposed to make, but others do not. Let's take a look at the letters we have written here. You're going to give me a thumbs up if the letter sound is dependable or making the sound it's supposed to make. Okay, ready? Does the S make the S sound. Give me a thumbs up to show it's a dependable sound. Good. Now let's think about the next sound. Eh. The letters AI make the eh sound instead. Is that sound dependable? No, it's not. That's a tricky sound. Let's give a thumbs down for that sound. The last sound is D. The letter D makes that sound. Is this a dependable sound? Why, yes it is. It is a dependable sound, so let's give it a thumbs up. As you are explaining each sound line and letters with your students, circle the tricky sound. Draw 2 small lines under the AI sound line as a reminder that there are 2 letters in that spot. These lines and circle will serve as a visual support or scaffolding for your students. Next, have students finger erase the letters, but leave the lines and circle. Be sure to cover up the word said and have students try and write the word using the scaffolds. By using these, it helps to ensure strong Tier 1 instruction and benefits all learners. So once students have written the word using the visual supports, next have them try writing it on their own without any scaffolds. I might say, let's try and write said on our own without any lines or circles. Okay, let's review how many sounds we hear in the word said. Let's say the word and then break it apart. Ready? Said. Said. There are 3 sounds, so go ahead and give it a shot and write the word, and then we'll check our work. Some students may need multiple opportunities and lots of feedback in order to write irregularly spelled words correctly. By segmenting words, providing scaffolds, and explicitly teaching tricky sounds, we are supporting orthographic mapping, which is how our brains learn new words. Also, be sure to point out other words that might follow the same irregular spelling pattern of the eh sound, spelled as AI, as in again or against. Making those spelling connections will help students as our brains love patterns. As imperfect educators and humans, I like to practice lots of grace and mercy. I've used this quote before from the great Maya Angelou, but it really is one of my favorites. Do the best that you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Thank you for taking a few minutes to watch this module. I really hope you found it useful. You can try this strategy when teaching regular or irregular words. I'd love to hear how it went.